So this information processing, to start with this topic, we'll start with Brunner. Brunner in 1960 proposed a theory of cognitive growth after Gisel's developmental theory and Piaget's cognitive developmental model. Yesterday I mentioned that cognitive psychological research actually started with the work of Piaget. So after that it was Brunner who believed that the development of human intellectual functions is shaped by a series of technological advances in the use of the mind. And the mental growth depends on the mastery of these techniques. And these techniques, we can take these techniques as an example, we can take the example of a language. So Brunner distinguishes three systems of processing information by which human beings construct models of their world through action, through imagery, and through the symbolism of language. A second concern of Brunner is with the integration. And what does he meant with the integration? It was how the acts were organized into higher order, making it possible to use for the larger and larger units of information for a particular solution, for solution of particular problems. Like it was, if we could integrate, the integration helps you in taking various examples to solve one specific problem. That is, for solving one thing or the issue, when we are calling of the experiences, we can integrate many related concepts to it. So from there we have this concept of integration. Brunner also believed that maturation consists of an orchestration of components into an integrated sequence, and that integration depends upon the pattern that come from outside of the, that is the outside information and the internalization of the environment. That is, whatever is coming from outside, that is the information, it is coming from outside. When we are internalizing that, why we are internalizing? Because from there we have that concept of apperception, that is our unique perception. The we are comprehending its meaning will help us to internalize the environment. Now, on the basis of this or approach and the well-known computer view of the cognitive model, we actually developed the IPM or the information processing model. Now, whenever we talk of the information processing model, we generally have the idea of a diagrammatical example can be like whenever environmental stimuli is coming to us, it is encoded in the sensory register, and with the further processings and the internal mediational processes, it is again going to the storage systems so that it can be stored and for it can be used for the response in the immediate manner or for the later uses. And in this way we actually have the general idea of the Atkinson shifting model. So that general idea or the specific diagrammatical representation that we have in our brain of the Atkinson shifting model or the storage model is basically based on this information processing model approach, where it is saying that whenever whenever a stimulus will come to any sensory register, it will be encoded in the brain. Now, encoding is our first level of cognition. It is coming to us and it's encoded in the body's system. And then there will be operation of the internal processes, that is the mediational processes, that is the chief important focus of the cognitive psychology. So after encoding, that is the first cognition level, then the same informations are going for the further operation of internal processing. Then again it's getting coded, that is recoding. Now it is having a second level of cognition. So what is the difference between the first level and second level? It is the preliminary cognition, it is the preliminary perception, it is the preliminary, if it's not a perception, it's a preliminary sensation of the stimulus that has arrived to the sensory register. After it's getting encoded in the first level of cognition, it is when it is further processed with the mediational processes are occurring in between, then it's going for the second level of cognition, the recoding, that is we are actually comprehending the meaning, then we can term it as our perception. So, the second level of cognition, then we are going for the symbolic structure for effective representation. Now, after recoding, after understanding the informations properly, we are taking the help of the symbolic structures for the representation. We are storing it for our use, and then we are going for the third level of cognition, that is the decoding, when the body is decoding the thing, the cognitive structures in our language for further output. Now, this model that we discussed, in the same way it obviously discussed the store model of Atkinson-Shiffrin. I guess this is a very popular one and most of you know about it. So, I am not going into that detail of the store model of Atkinson-Shiffrin. That is a very preliminary model of memory. So, now if we are going straight with this idea to assume how the Atkinson-Shiffrin model memory functions, then we will actually have that first the stimulus and input is coming, it is hitting on the sensory register. So, at sensory register we will be having our first level of cognition, because we said we are having the first level of cognition, the attention, the sensation. Then in the further level of processions, what we will do for processing, we have to pick out the important ones. That means we are attending the ones that is important to us, and then from there, if the attended materials, they are going on to the short term memory or the working memory. This, when the information is going in the short term memory, then it is in the second level of cognition, where it is using the mental strategies how to properly understand what the matter is, and from then on again we are going on for the third level of cognition, that is the storage of long term memory, when we are stacking the information in the memory system. And from the long term memory, obviously it will go for the working memory and then output. When I am saying working memory, why? Because any information cannot straightly jump out of the long term storage. Long term memory is the storehouse, it stores, and short term memory acts as the working memory. That memory functions when we are trying to take the information or give out something. So, any of the information has to go by this route only. Whenever the incoming stimuli is coming, it is going through the short term memory, and whenever we are retrieving an information from the long term memory, it should come by, and it will come by, the short term memory. So, it will come through the short term memory as the output, and so the short term storage is called the working memory. Now, in this relation, there are researchers which suggested that age related growth and gain is a basic capacity, that is the growth of cognitive level from eliminating the unnecessary stimuli and accepting the important one. Now, this elimination is the first level of occurring is the first level of cognition, that is at the sensory register. Then to the long term memory, that is in the third level, and response generator to the central executive and coordination in the second level. As I told you, the circuit. In this way the information is coming. Now, for memory there is another very influential model, and that is called connectionist approach or connectionism. In this approach, it basically depicts the mental system at its most basic level in an interconnected workings of neuron in the brain. In this model, what they believe is like whenever stimuli is knocking or any single stimulus is knocking at the sensory registers, neuron unit sends signals. That is, it is talking about, that means when we are coming to the connectionist approach, it is talking about the internal neural mechanisms that is going on to store the memory. So for that, whenever stimulus is hitting the sensory register, then the neurons get fired, they start sending signals, and that they receive from the other units, and it reaches a certain strength. Because of this, information is distributed throughout the system. In overall the units, it goes on to parallelly all the systems, like this information, for this information to be transported, what are the related neurons that needs to be fired. So every information that is related, when the information is coming, every related units are getting fired simultaneously, parallelly, that means together. And so this model is sometimes and obviously called parallel distributed processing approach. So here the memory is actually discussed in terms of the neural loops, that is, for each information when the memory is forming, it is stored in the neural bonds, that is, it's getting, a neuron is getting triggered, it is firing, it is sending signals, and the related all the units are getting excited, and with the strength, that is how what is the loading of that trigger, depending on that the further informations are getting dispatched or retained, that is, it is going for output or input, that it depends on that strength of the signals energetic level. Because whenever we are calling about the neural impulses, we say it the neural impulses are electrically charged. So depending on that charge, that thing gets connected, and as for one single memory to form, we have various this neural connections. So when a stored information is asked to be retrieved, then when how it is retrieved, like the incoming, I am asking you something, as I am asking you something, your neurons are getting fired and searching for the informations, and the related informations, where are the neural impulses that have this related informations, every neural impulses is getting triggered by this, and how much energy, how much charge these triggering is having for each of the neurons will actually show which neural loop is having that information, and accordingly it will be retrieved. Now this is obviously something different from how we viewed memory previously, because mostly memory always talked about the store models, because memory is all about storing information, but it is something different. However, neither store model nor the connectionist approach actually successfully explained how children thinking changes with age. And to explain this area of cognition, obviously several developmental approaches were made, and two of them of prime importance was the case of the Neo-Piagetian theory, where they accepted that the Piaget stage of Robbie case opined that movement of one stage to the next is due to the increases in information processing capacity. That means when I am actually, as if we are aware of the Piaget's developmental stages, then they are saying that this progression from one stage to another, it actually depends on the amount of information processing capacity. So each major stage involves a distinct type of cognitive structure. So which part of the cognitive structure will be active for each stage, and accordingly as their capacity increases, they are going on of increased age, they are also having a developed cognitive structure. So they have decided in this way, like in infancy it is sensory input and the physical action. In early childhood it's internal representation of events and actions. In middle childhood it is transformation of the representations, and in adolescence we are having the complex transformation of representation. So in this way, as the cognitive capacity, how complex cognitive activities we can do in various developmental levels is actually deciding on which stage of cognitive development we will be hitting on. Obviously, to explain this theory or this transitions from various cognitive capacities, they have the factors related to it is the brain development, practice with the schemas and automatization, because when we are talking about the brain, I told you cognitive psychology is more about the schema, because that is the mental framework that is actually acting as your reference point. Then there is another factor, and that is the formation of the central conceptual structure. So what I'll just very shortly discuss what are these. Shall I discuss it? The points of brain development, practice with schemas and automatization, and this formation of central conceptual structure.
My touch-up will be there, yes.
Okay. Then for the brain development, it is the synaptic growth, the development of the myelin sheaths, the cephalons, improve of the efficiency of thoughts. So in this way, as the brain is developing in each stage, we are moving on to the simple cognitive functions to the complex ones. Then with the practice with schemas and automatization, like the use of schemas is actually the exercise of the automatization only. This automatic power allows the working memory to act freely and thus to combine the existing schema and generating new ones. That is, you are tallying the reference and you are bringing out your new thought. So schema is used as that reference point, and by this the practicing schemas leads to the automatization, which releases the working memory for other activities permitting the schema combination and construction. Why combination construction? Because with new experiences, new information coming and tallied with the schema you are having, so new information can be incorporated in your old schema, or that can be reshaped or remolded into a new schema. So that's why it's combination and construction. And then it's the formation of the central conceptual structure, and that is as a result of practicing, combining and constructing, the children acquire the network of concepts and relations that permit them to think about the wide range of situations in more advanced ways, and consequently the processing capacity expands and the children will move on to the next level, because as my concepts are increasing, I am maturing in my thoughts, and in this way I am able to do more complex cognitive activities. In addition to this, we also have a Sigler model of strategy that is also related to this, I'm not going into this model very deeply, because actually in IPA you'll get many models. So I have taken only some to explain, and these are the important ones. And there is also a Sigler's model. So to be very brief, it's like when a challenging problem, how Sigler actually discussed this is the selection procedure depends mainly on the basis of speed and accuracy. Sigler's finding revealed that the child thinks in just one way, even on the same task. In fact, no two child will be thinking of the same way. So every single child will encounter the same problem in a different way, and that different way, why they have a different way? Because they have all their unique mental strategies. Their unique mental strategies are derived from their own mental imagery, and the strategy variability is vital for devising a new and more adaptive way of thinking, which evolved through extensive experience in solving problems. So, as children come on with more successful strategies, they learn more about the problem at hand. So, with their own expertise, they are learning more, and how they are combating the problem. Each individual students, how they are using their imagery, their expertise to solve that problem will help in their development. And why this theory I said, because this marks this gives you the idea why we have individual difference in maturation, in development, why all the child do not have the same cognitive developmental levels at a time. Everyone will be going through the same stages, but still they will be different, because they will be solving or they will be using their expertise in different way, and accordingly as they are being more successful in solving the problems, they will be moving on to more advanced level of cognitive development. Now this in this way we actually discussed the information processing approach from the in how the memory can be explained from it. Now we will be talking about the attention part. Okay, so yes, the time is left. Okay. Now, so we are coming to the attention part. Okay, do you have any problem with the memory part, this information processing approach from memory? Till now what we have discussed? Sneha is raising hand. Sneha Mukherjee, do you have any question? Sneha Mukherjee, you are not audible to me. Okay, then just write it in the chat box. Wacha, everybody I guess was muted from there. I don't know. You can write it in the chat box if you have any question. Sneha Mukherjee and Srimoy Chatterjee have raised their hands. Now then write your questions over here. Okay, I am moving on to the next segment, the attention part. Because I guess your mic was muted from the center, so it's not actually audible. So you can write over here. Okay, now for the attentional strategies, according to IPA, IPA is the information processing approach, and IPM it's like information processing model. So for the information processing approach, we will discuss it from selectivity, adaptability and planning. Now the toddler's selectivity and adaptability in attention and perception are described by this model in two factors. Now one is cognitive inhibition and the second is effectiveness of attentional strategies. Now cognitive inhibition, how to say this? Okay, selective attention depends on the cognitive inhibition, that is the ability of the child to control the internal and external distracting stimuli to enter in the attentional consciousness. Now by clearing the unnecessary stimuli from the working memory, cognitive inhibition enhances the processing capacity. So as we can control what we will take in and what we will filter out, this filtering capacity of individual, that is what are the informations I will be taking in, what are the informations important to me, this is your cognitive inhibition. In this way it is helping us to be more specific and this will enhance in the processing capacity, because we will really focus on the ones, we will focus on the informations that are actually needed for further processing. Yeah, what was your question? Due to some issue, and can you please tell the topics discussed? No, I am sorry, I cannot get back to that point because it is very time consuming. Okay, presentation. Okay, I'll try to make one. Actually, we have so much to cover and that's why I didn't, and a very short time. Okay, I'll just keep that in mind. Okay, visual information I generally put in into my videos. Yesterday, as all the visual informations were not available, whatever were available I gave. As I'll put this thing in the internet, so you'll be getting, I guess. Okay. Okay, so the first factor of attention that we discussed for the selectivity and adaptability was cognitive inhibition, and second that was left was effectiveness of attentional strategies. Now this effectiveness strategy, this was from Miller, who found out that the development of selective attentional strategies follow a predictable sequence. That is, how it will be done is production, control, utilization and effective strategies. So when we are calling it in a predictable sequence, that is we are having a proper sequence of activities in which it is done for effective solution of a problem. So for any effective strategy, we will be starting with the planning system. So in the planning part, it involves thinking out a sequence of acts ahead of time and allocating the attention accordingly to reach the goal. That is, when I am saying planning, that is I am scheduling my actions in a sequence. Okay, what will be done in what way, after which what will be done. In this way I can actually go on with in a proper direction towards the goal and in a scheduled time also. Now the seeds of the effective planning are present in infancy too, but during the middle childhood the children become better at planning obviously. Infancy pattern, these things are, these are not all or none phenomenon, it's either nil or will be everything. No, there were something in the infancy, but as we are getting older and our cognitive structures are getting improved, we are also having improved cognitive abilities and improved cognition. So planning is also getting better. Now after we are having this planning, then obviously this APM system, like the information processing system, as it is helping in planning, so that you can plan ahead, as your cognitive abilities are helping in that. I already discussed its help in memory. Now it also helps in strategies for storing information. Now how these informations will be stored, in which way, and that for that also we have actually strategies, so that we can have improved memory or improved storage of information. So for that we have rehearsal and organization of the units, that is, if we start with the preschoolers, we have seen that the beginning of rehearsal, actually we start in the preschoolers also. What is rehearsal? When we actually teach the child the rhymes or the numbers, what we generally do is we rehearse, we make them rehearse that repeatedly. So rehearsal and organization. So rehearsal is like, it's coming very preliminary, it's like in the preliminary levels also we are coming with the rehearsal strategy, so that we can have better memory. Similarly, grouping of related items, that is organization. Organization is integration, as I was saying. So it is like grouping the similar thoughts, similar units into a single unit. So that is also done in the preschoolers, that is when they are starting their journey in school. That is how, like, we are telling them these are the fruits, these are the vegetables. So we are teaching them how to organize their information system, how to integrate the information, so they can actually improve their memory. So after that, after rehearsal and organization, we also have elaboration. That is, children start to use this memory strategy, that is this elaboration, by the end of the middle childhood. It involves creating a relationship or shared meaning between two or more pieces of information that are not members of the same category. Now once children discover this technique, they find it very efficient, that it tends to replace the other strategies. Why? Now it is not only the similar categories they are learning to integrate, but now they are learning how to find out the relationship between the informations, and how these different informations also can be integrated, also can be combined, so that they can be used effectively for solving another problem. That is, two different informations that is integrated in a single in a related unit like capacity, and we are storing that, so that that can be used for solving a problem that is totally different from these two informations. That is elaboration. And then there is obviously culture and schooling, that is also needed, because for attention or for being memory, for processing the information. Why this is needed? This is of the exposure. Why? Now whatever till now we talked about was like age. With age this is coming, which they as the cognitive structures are getting involved, it's being better, so they are doing complex stuff. Now we what about Mowgli, what about Tarzan? They too had the same developmental line, the milestones, but a difference was marked if they could be actually tested on certain parameters. So what was that difference? That can be of the exposure, what are the regular students are getting and what they did not get. So culture and schooling is also very important, because people usually employ this technique when they need to remember the information for its own sake or for the cultural development. And for the memory strategies, this exposure to the cultural informations or the formal teaching system, it is necessary and it is important also to enhance their attention or memory patterns. Now we will be discussing about the strategies for retrieving the information. What can be used to retrieve the information from the storehouses? Now once the information enters our long term knowledge, it is retrieved or recovered so that it can be used. Only storing will lead us to nowhere unless and until it is used in certain way. So information can be retrieved from memory in three ways. It's recall, recognition and reconstruction. I guess recall and recognition was known to you. This reconstruction is a newer thing. So what is recognition? Recognition is the ability to recognize a larger number of stimuli over longer delays. That is, if I am asking you a question on attention, you are giving me answer on attention only, and you are not answering me anything from memory, anything from other models of information processing approach, though all the informations were stored in the same unit, but you are correctly recognizing the problem that is there for you to solve. So that is recognition. And recall is like the child generate a mental representation of the stimulus, and the beginning of the recall appear before 1 year, and in recalling is like I am remembering the thing. I am just how aptly you can recall the thing, how aptly you can know, yeah, it's known to me. Whenever you are understanding, as you hear the question, you are understanding, yes, I know this, that means there is a recall of the event, that is you are remembering. So your capacity is growing more if you just identify, yes, this is known to me, so that is your recall, and exactly not recognition, because that is exactly which point is sought. When you are taking out that will be recognition. And what is this reconstruction? Now reconstruction generally occurs to children when they are remembering complex and meaningful materials. Over the time, as originally provided information decays and new information comes in, the children make more inferences about their actions and the actors who do the actions. This increases the coherence of the reconstructed information and therefore its memorableness. Now therefore whatever is coming to us, every day a new information is coming in, and I said ki just some time back I was talking about reconstruction of the schema. So this is the same thing. So as the new informations are coming in and you are seeing different response patterns and different actors in a situation with a similar type of stimulus, so that helps in the reconstructions of the information that is available to you, and accordingly obviously how it is to be memorized so that it can be used later. Now another theory of fuzzy trace theory, it's called, it was by Brainerd and Reyna. It is said that the information is reconstructed automatically at encoding into a vague fuzzy version called a gist. Now gist is like a small version of the total history. As we all say, just tell me in a gist what is there in the movie. So that is a small version of a 3-hour movie. So this gist, when we remember a thing, generally that is a fuzzy vague version, and that is gist, which is stored separately from the verbatim version and is especially useful for reasoning. With age, children rely less on the verbatim and more on the gist memory, which contributes to the improved reasoning and recall. That is, we are not going into that much of detailing now. The gist or the exact what we say, the gist can be called as the bullseye, the core point of the plot. So as we grow older, we focus more on this core point of the plot and we do our cognitive evaluations depending on that. And lastly, we will talking about the metacognition. Now, this term of metacognition, it refers to the awareness and understanding of various aspects of thought. It expands greatly as children construct a naive theory of mind, a coherent understanding of people as mental beings. From early to middle childhood, children's awareness of cognitive capacities, strategies and task variables become more accurate and complete. Now, once the children become conscious of the factors that influence the mental activity, they take account of interactions among the variables and metacognition becomes comprehensive theory. So, metacognition is like taking into integration of the various factors that is acting in the formation of a memory. That is like whenever we are talking about memory, now these all theories or factors, it cannot work in isolation. When the total thing or the total memory functions, it takes on the various things that we have discussed in the various theories, and none of the factors will act in isolation. Everybody will be functioning in an integrated way, in a coherent way. So, as that is happening, metacognition part is increasing for the children. So, if we just go to sum up the total information processing approach, then we can see that the major strength of this approach is it's the precision in breaking down cognition into separate elements, so that each can be studied thoroughly. That means we are not taking the total informations as such big units. So, we are breaking the bigger units into smaller ones, and we are thoroughly going through every unit, what is happening in every bit of unit. So, that is a very strong point of information processing approach. So, I guess this is what information processing approach is all about. So, if you have any questions, you can ask me now. Yeah, and the related video of this will be uploaded in my channel. So, whoever have doubts or have missed the class can go through it and obviously have their questions over there, or we can discuss it sometime later if we get some time. Okay. Thank you, class.